Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the exemptions in the Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And what that means is a property that you get to keep if you file a Chapter 7 liquidation. Now for most people this isn't going to be a problem, and as a statistic, 96% of bankruptcies filed, consumer bankruptcies filed in this country, debtors don't lose any of their property. But it is an issue for some people, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about them. Now, just right off the bat, in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, exemptions really don't matter because you get to keep all your property, whether it is exempt or not. Now, Arizona exemptions apply if you've lived in Arizona for the previous 2 years. If you haven't lived in Arizona for at least 2 years, then the exemptions of the dominant state will apply. Those exemptions vary state to state, so it depends on which state you've lived in. But as a general rule, most people who file bankruptcy in Arizona have Arizona exemptions will apply. The most important exemption is your homestead exemption. If you've lived in your house for less than 4 years, you have a homestead exemption of $136,000 in equity. If you lived in your house for more than 4 years, you have a homestead exemption of $150,000. Unlike all the other exemptions, however, if you're married, that exemption is not double. For a car, you get to keep, if you're single, you get to keep $5,000 in equity. If you're disabled and single, you get to keep about $10,000 in any single vehicle. If you're married, the exemption is $10,000 and you get to keep 2 vehicles. Checking and savings is $150 for a single person in one checking account. For a married couple, it is $300 in any 2 checking or saving accounts. And what is important about the checking account and the savings account is the exemption applies on the day of filing, and uncashed checks or unconverted checks do not count. So let's say you have $1,000, you're married, and you have $1,000 in your checking account, and you wrote out a check for $700 the day before you filed bankruptcy, but it hasn't been cashed yet. On your bank returns, on your bank statements, it's going to say $1,000 in your checking account. And the trustee is going to ask for a check for $700 after we go to the confirmation meeting because the checking account says $1,000. The uncashed check doesn't count. So just make sure on the day you file bankruptcy, there's no more than $300 if you're married in your checking account, or $150 if you're single, filing single. For pension plans, if it is an ERISA qualified plan, then you are protected. To find out if it's an ERISA qualified plan, you want to talk to your benefits coordinator because they're going to be the expert in that sort of thing. Like I mentioned a little bit before, if you're married, the exemptions are doubled except for the homestead exemption. Tax refunds are non-exempt, so if you filed your taxes and you're due a refund, the trustee is going to want that money. They are non-exempt.